Good evening, everybody. This is Dave DeRusi. We have a community address today, and I'm brought some guests this time around. The goal of tonight is to answer some of the most frequently asked questions. So I have my PPS director, Ms. Dawn Trainer, and my curriculum instruction and assessment director, Mr. Brendan Sullivan. So we're going to do our best to go back and forth, trade off some questions, and get this information out there. Basically to help everybody better understand the next few weeks and how we're going to open in remote. So I think one of the very first questions that keep popping up and down is about our AP courses and our Academy courses up at the new complex. So I'll turn that right over to Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Dr. DeRusi. Yeah, the administration at the Saugus Middle High School has been working hard to ensure that the PreAcademy at the middle school and the Advanced Academy at the high school have the course offerings that they need for their continued success. They've worked to try and cohort the students as much as possible to make sure their schedules include all the classes necessary. Grades 11 and 12, where cohorting is a little bit more challenging because of the way schedules work for upperclassmen. They're working to ensure that they have access to the AP courses that they need. So they're moving ahead with those. Incoming sixth graders, they reviewed the applications for the PreAcademy, and they made their selections following the system. And so everyone should have been notified. If they haven't, they should reach out to the building administration, Mr. Hashem or Ms. Monto. The same thing for the Advanced Academy at the high school in the 9th grade. So overall, moving forward to ensure that these students continue with their academic success.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Another question that keeps coming up is about parents wishing to enroll in remote platforms for online schooling. I have just started today, as a matter of fact, reaching out, talking with parents. So if you are a parent and this is something you are totally interested in, your best bet would be to get me an email on the fall reopening email address that I put out there. Just leave me your name, your phone number. And again, I have been making phone calls all day and I'll continue tomorrow to talk to parents on an individual basis. So that is definitely a work in progress and we are up and running. Now, there's also several questions about how are we going to bring back our special ed population and our ELL population. So to speak to that, I'm going to first hand it off to Ms. Dawn Trainer about the special ed.
Thank you, Dr. DeRusi. So when we're talking about a remote start for all students on September 16th, we are also talking about as soon after that start and as safely as possible, we are looking to bring back our most vulnerable special education population. This would include pre-K to grade 6 per the Department of Ed advisory. We're following right along with all of the advisories that we've been met with from the Department of Ed. And these are students that we further define as students who are in substantially separate educational settings. You could get technical on the PL1 of the IEP. There is a box on that IEP which states where the educational setting is for that child. However, most parents do understand who these children are. They have been typically educated in these settings, and all of those students will be notified by my office as soon as we are able. We appreciate your patience. We know people want information. We are working very, very hard to make this happen. There are a myriad of details that go along with it. And once again, we do really appreciate everyone being patient with this. We will let you know.
And Mr. Sullivan on the ELL front.
You're following along with special ed. We'll be focusing first on the elementary age ELL students, and we'll be using access scores to identify the students most in need of return for some in-person learning. And we'll be reaching out in the not too distant future to work with families around this.
Excellent. Now, there are also a ton of questions around pre-K, and I know Ms. Trainer has been working very closely with the preschool people as well as Tracy Ragucci, the principal at the Vets. So, Ms. Trainer, preschool.
Okay, thank you, Dr. DeRusi. Yes, thank you for mentioning Tracy and Megan Carell as well, the principal and assistant principal at the Vets. They have been very instrumental in making a lot of this come to life. So essentially for the pre-K, the question is, will they be following the hybrid half-day AB model? Yes, they will. These are for 4-year-olds who opt in. We have the list of students. They will be assigned a teacher. And to that point, all of the pre-K is at the vets. So the vets administration is working hard to assign students to teachers, just like they are for the rest of the grades. So pre-K is included with all of the elementary level grades. Ms. Ragucci will be releasing a Connect Ed later this week, which will inform parents of a time for next week to come in and pick up relevant information associated with your child. This will also include who your child's teacher is, but Chromebooks and things of that nature. And I think Mr. Sullivan will get into a little bit of that later. There is a question about tuition. The exact tuition is not identified at this time, but it will absolutely be adjusted to reflect the pre-K schedule. Okay, so that's really the best I have at that time, but I think that's, most people wanted to understand whether or not they would be paying a full tuition. It will be adjusted to reflect their child's schedule.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to combine questions really around number 5 and 6. The questions are around the one-to-one initiative and the handing out of Chromebooks. And then the other question tends to revolve around teacher assignments, meet and greets, and that information. So I'm going to hand them both off to Mr. Sullivan. He will handle those.
Thank you. So starting with Chromebooks, Chromebooks are going to be distributed at the building level for our one-to-one initiative. So the goal is to give every student in the district a school-issued Chromebook. They'll be distributed at the building level so that we can assign a Chromebook to a student, track who has what Chromebook to collect it back at the end of the school year. So Chromebook distribution is scheduled to begin or to happen next week. Building administration will message directly with the parents and students at their building about the specific dates, times, locations, and procedures for people to come and pick those Chromebooks up. At the district level, there's been some questions about resources, additional resources, such as Wi-Fi or things for families in need. The district's working to establish some parent engagement individuals who during the course of the school year will be reaching out to parents to help connect them with services and things that may be in order. For the time being, I would recommend people with specific concerns to once again use that fall reopening email address to send those to us in central offices so we can begin working on it. Related to teacher assignment, the secondary administration sent out messages today, September 2nd, to both middle school and high school families around scheduling in X2. So please look for those messages. I will ask them to post those messages on their websites as well so that people can read them if they didn't receive it in via Direct Connect. At the elementary, when you pick up your Chromebook, the elementary principals will also provide you with your student's school-issued email, school-issued username and password in class and cohort assignment. So they'll give you all of that information at the same time along with your Chromebooks at the pickup.
Very good, thank you. This is a great question. Who is the new principal at the Oaklandville? We moved a Saugus veteran, Maureen Lukey, over there, and she is going to be the interim principal for the year. I have been working with Maureen my tenure here. She stepped to the plate as a vice principal at the high school and assistant principal middle school. I mean, she's done some good work in the district. She's a known entity. She was a guidance person for years here, and she has already started to acclimate herself to the Oaklandville's parents as well as the staff. So anything coming out of Oaklandville will be coming out of Miss Maureen Lukey. Changes to IEP, huge questions, and it tends to revolve around some services such as, physical therapy, speech therapy. So I'm going to hand that over to Ms. Trainer, the resident expert.
Thank you, Dr. DeRuzzi. Okay, so when we talk about changes, what we mean is that how IEP services and instruction will look different in a remote and or hybrid model. It's really important to understand, and it's, you know, it goes without saying that in-person instruction is the standard. We try to replicate as much as possible the remote and hybrid set, hopefully if we get to hybrid, the remote setting, okay? So the IEPs do not change, but what we do is we do notify parents through what we call a COVID-19 remote learning plan. We did not call it a COVID-19 remote learning plan in the spring. We just called them remote learning plans. If and when we do go to hybrid model, we will adjust them to reflect the hybrid education that is. However, this plan is just a document that the Department of Ed has advised us to use to help partner with families and notify them about how exactly their child's education will look different and how the services and instruction will look different through their IEP. We learned a lot from the spring. Department of Ed learned a lot from the spring. And one thing that came loud and clear through all of their advisories is that we need to have much more of a robust approach. So what you can be expecting for students on IEPs, whether in remote or hybrid, is much more face-to-face interaction virtually between students and families. And this would involve teachers and service providers as well. Structured group lessons as well as recorded lessons for family flexibility, okay? And it just really, just overall increased two-way communication. And we ask for your partnership with that, because the two-way communication is gonna let us know what's working, what isn't working, where do we need to make adjustments, and just in general, your feedback about your child is so valuable during this time for us. Normally we make our observations in classrooms and we work with these students hands-on. If that is compromised under this scenario with remote and hybrid to some extent, we need you. We need your information, and we really appreciate that two-way communication. So again, don't wait for your teacher or service provider or even building administrator to reach out to you. If something is happening in your home, something is happening with your child's education, we really do encourage you to reach out to us and partner with us, and let's make it work together, okay?
Thank you. Another big question is, even in a remote model, will parents be required to pick up handouts and other items from the school? Well, remote or hybrid, there will be a level of more information going home on a regular basis. And that information could be workbook sheets. It could be anything that supports the remote learning. And that'll be based really at the building levels to work that out. So if materials needed to go home, whether they're for an art project that needs to be done, and that will all be worked out at the school level with practicing all the social distancing, all the health checks we have to. But to create that environment where parents that may need to pick things up, or parents that may need to return things back to us, such as forms, such as, you know, work for their child to be graded, we'll work that all out. That'll be at the building level. This is a big question, and all three of us may be adding a little to this. So, you know, parents and guardians, we get you're trying to establish your work schedules. And we also know that for a lot of you, you're relying on either grandparents or, you know, less tech savvy daycare options. So what we're going to try to do, and I'll ask Mr. Sullivan maybe to come in on this at some point with me, we're doing our best to provide log-on information at pickup, even if it's just a step-by-step how to log on to a Chromebook. We're trying to make that relatively simple. We're also looking at doing some small videos on how to do this that we'll post out there on local cable, on our website, so that parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever is, mother-in-laws, whoever's watching our kids in this remote phase will be able to have some access. I'd like Mr. Sullivan to speak a little bit about a family liaison program we're trying to start.
Thank you. So we're attempting to bring on board some additional, at least for the start of this remote learning, people to help do family engagement, family outreach, to connect with families and help them, you know, find the resources necessary to make remote learning a success. We're also working with our teaching staff to tap into their knowledge base to do family engagement activities. Like Dr. Deruzzi said, it might be creating easy to follow handouts or electronic documents to walk people through step-by-step logging into Google Classroom, short videos, and other forms of family engagement to help people understand how to access these materials. So we'll be rolling those out as the school year begins, without trying to overwhelm people with a flood of information all at once. We also understand that, different families may have different levels of comfort with different technologies, as will different students. So we're trying to work to ensure that if people have technical questions, they know where to go, when to go to the teacher, and when maybe for the teacher, who they can send it to in the IT department or elsewhere to help us get answers.
So we will be setting up a support network around the initial phasing in of the remote learning. We're in a better position this year than we were in the spring to do that. So there'll be follow-ups on this, and we'll get that information out. I've received several questions under the guise, assuming this were a normal year. And it always comes down to like club activities, graduation activities, after school clubs. I think right now we're taking this one step at a time. We're going to do our best to provide some additional academic supports in an after school model, even remotely. In a hybrid world, we may attempt to roll some very small club activities out in the beginning. But again, we are so constrained by social distancing laws, all the CDC/DESE, the Board of Education, the Board of Health regs, that this is going to be a very slow approach. Our major goal is in-person learning, and we're putting a lot of time and energy in that first. And then as we do that and we see it's going smoother, we will then roll out some of the other projects. So I'm sure this community will rally. I'm hoping we're back at full capacity before this graduation season hits us. A lot of that has to do with the health trends. We're watching that. And we'll keep you posted. We would all love a normal, at some point, year to unfold in front of us. But again, we're going slow. We want to keep everybody healthy and safe. And the first goal is really in-person learning, and we're going to start to work with our most critical needs students around special ed and ELL. And we'll keep monitoring the situation health-wise, and we'll be making adjustments as we go. A lot of talk about bus transportation. As you know, the school committee voted, we're going to hold this year right to the requirements of the state that says we are obligated to transport any student K through 6 that is 2 miles from their allotted building. We are still registering kids, believe it or not. We got a late influx of registration. When this is all done, a list will go out. Parents will be notified that they qualify for the bus, and there is no cost. But again, it's only K through 6. And I know parents are saying, well, I have an 8th grader and I can't get them to school. And I recognize that as a hardship. But at this time, I'm only in the position to cover grades K through 6, and parents will be notified based on their address to the school that their child was assigned to. Again, more questions about assuming the district comes back hybrid or we go remote. Will there be other options? Yes, I'm calling those people individually. And I can't tell you enough, you have to go to the fall reopening email. My inbox is on an average 200, 240. Most of them are people trying to sell me plexiglass and PPE and hand sanitizers. So, but that website is my website. I read every one of those. I reach out. So that's the best way to get my attention on anything that has to do with fall reopening. We're going to talk a little bit, and this is really the final question. Explain the details, what a week would look like for students and parents in both a hybrid and remote. I'm going to flip some of this over to Mr. Sullivan at this time because he has been instrumental in building those plans with teachers for those classes. So Mr. Sullivan, if you could speak briefly to what those would look like.
Yeah, it's challenging just in speaking to explain the schedule, but we will post to the website draft schedules to help people understand what it'll look like. The major difference that you'll see in the fall as opposed to the spring is that it is going to be much more structured, much more uniform at the different grade levels. So elementary, we've constructed a model schedule that all of the elementary buildings will follow, which will allow for students to have a mixture of both virtual meeting times where they are able to, interact with the teacher through the computer, and independent work times. It will also allow us to better work specialists such as art and wellness through the schedule, and also by having clearly segmented blocks of times, make it easier for other instructional supports to be added into student schedules. In the middle and high school, we use the existing 7-block schedule and assign them over the course of the week so that the blocks each meet at least twice a week. There's teacher office hours. So we'll post those to the website, and when you see them, it will allow you to understand that the learning day will be a lot more structured in the fall than it was in the spring.
Ms. Trainer, do you have any last tidbits of information you'd like to share?
So in following with that piece of structure, you can expect the same for special education students. When I mentioned the remote learning plans, those will be followed in a remote and hybrid model. Ideally, we would all be back in school and in person where we belong, but as long as the health and safety metrics tell us we can't, we will do the best that we can to as closely match as possible under a remote and hybrid approach. And just thank you so much for this opportunity to actually speak to this, because I'm hoping it will be very helpful for our community members and our community partners. Thank you.
And on behalf of the district, I want to thank all the parents. As I said, I don't do this alone. So you see two of the people that have been, shoulder to shoulder with me through all of this. The other person would be our finance director, Paula Andrews. And we've been swinging away at this since it started back in March. I feel we're in actually better shape now with the remote plan and the hybrid plan. And we're going to do our due diligence. We're going to watch the metrics on the, are we color, what color are we, red, are we green? We're watching that. We're working with principals and staff. I will say I was pleased to see how many staff members came into the district this week and that have been in the buildings. I've been in with them. We're making progress. We're moving excess furniture out. We have things delivered to store it in. We're working with consultants to move health and safety even further than what we already have. And it's going to be a long process, but I think as a community, you can help. I mean, masks, you need to wear them when you're out and about. Wash your hands, hand sanitizer. I said it in my last address. This is what we've all adapted to. And we can get this done. I think for all of us right now, it's come back. And I think Ms. Trainer said it best. You have to communicate with us. Tell us what's right. Tell us when something's not working. And we'll do our best to meet you in the middle and try to get things done to the best of our ability. So with that, Central Office News Team 5 is going to sign off right now. We might get picked up by a local cable. Who knows, right? This could be a new gig for all of us. All right, Saugus, stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you.